Hey, Chief, how are you today?
I'm great, Ronnie. How are you?
Quite the backdrop behind you there. You want to tell us what's going on?
Well, we're here at Oakley Community College in Auburn Hills, and we have our Fire Ops 101 program going on.
For those not familiar with the Fire Ops program, what is it and why is it important?
Oh, the Fire Ops program is a great opportunity for local leaders. We actually have one of our state senators out here, Jim Runstead's with us today, to get a real feel for what a firefighter does every day. Everything from they're going to go through a simulation where they actually go in and have to extinguish a simulated fire. It's real fire, but controlled by the professionals in the control tower. They've got a car fire over to this side of me, an extrication way back behind me, and on the back side of this building is a hazardous material leak that they have to put on. They have to don the chemical suits and go in, actually plug a 55-gallon drum that's leaking a hazardous chemical. And then the last simulation that they rotate through just down the street from me here at the simulated city here in Auburn Hills at OCC, the Crest site, is a series of homes. And so there'll be a medical emergency in one of these homes. They'll pull up in the ambulance. They'll take all the equipment into the house. They'll load up a simulated patient, a weighted mannequin, and they got to bring them out and then transport them to the hospital. And they'll drive around a little bit here within our Sim City here at the Crest Center.
Chief, you've been doing these, I would imagine, for a few years. Have you ever had any elected leader who freaked out when they went into the fire room and couldn't make it through?
No, the great thing about this whole process is, and this is a joint labor management initiative where our union locals participate and contribute to making this a success. So there are handlers, right, firefighters from their communities that are right by them, getting them psyched up before they go in, making sure that they're prepared to go into the simulation, and they stay right by their side all the way through. So when they're in the comfort of their professional firefighters, we haven't had anybody panic or have any kind of distress that comes on through going through the simulation.
Well, I'm impressed then because I actually did one of these in Detroit, and you go into that first room, and the heat is intense, and the smoke can become so overwhelming. It really is a good exercise for the public to get a feel for what the firefighters and first responders face on any given day.
Oh, it really is, Ron. And next year, it looks like I know where one of my invitations is going to. I think we need to get you back out here. We'll go live from out here with you. I think that our elected leaders are expected to make decisions on large ticket items. Fire trucks, as you know, aren't cheap. The extrication equipment that we use, the powered stretchers that we use, just everything, the bunker gear that the firefighters wear. And when you don't really understand what it's protecting you from, when you don't understand that little bit of heat that comes out of a simulated fire compared to a real house that's burning with all those plastics and combustibles in there, it gives that elected official more knowledge when they're making those very important decisions on how they're going to spend the tax dollars that they've been entrusted with.
Chief Flynn with us here on the Oakland County Megacast, and they are also our Facebook partner of the day, and we want to say thank you for that. How often do you guys actually go through this training as far as from your firefighters' standpoint? Do they just do it in the beginning when they're going through their certification through the college, or do you use this facility throughout the years as a training program as well?
Yeah, thank you for that question. OCC has been a partner with public safety for decades. And when this facility was built, and boy, I remember, I'm an OCC alumni, and I remember it being thought of and seeing the drawings when I was in paramedic school here. Over the years, they've really grown those partnerships. So our firefighters, the Oakway Mutual Aid Group, those 10 communities that mutual aid here in Oakland County as part of the Oakway Group, we'll combine our resources and come out to the facility for the day. We'll do live fire burn training with our firefighters. We'll do move into what's called the flashover unit, where they actually bring the temperatures up high enough so that the smoke and the combustibles in the air actually flash over and show the fire behavior. And then the firefighters will go over different techniques to extinguish that. So we're out here for that. And then other things that come up, they can ladder buildings out here, do different kinds of operations with the burn pits that are over here to practice different techniques. So How often? I would say 2 to 3 times a year we'll do a larger operation out on this site. But every day we're doing specialized and individual training right inside of each engine house and within the township.
Fire Chief Greg Flynn with us from the West Bloomfield Fire Department and the Tri-City Fire Department as well. Joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. The West Bloomfield Fire Department also our Facebook partner on today's edition of the program. And Chief, these real-world simulations at a controlled site like this, how important are they for those that are on the front lines as fighting fires in our communities each day, to prepare them for when they do have to go out to somebody's home or somebody's business, and not only make sure that primarily the people that are there are safe, but also potentially save this person's home or save this person's business as well?
We want to practice how we're going to play. And what this facility offers us is, again, I got 3 different styles of residential homes on the property. I have a bank, a storefront, like a strip mall storefront. So if we wanted to practice fire attack and come up and ladder that building, or we wanted to practice different techniques of escaping out of a 2nd-story window, what we have here is a safe environment to do that in. We don't need to worry about inconveniencing our residents by blocking a street or having the simulated smoke in the neighborhood, those types of things. This is a safe place to do all of that. And remember, we also, when we're learning, we want to practice and be kind of in an environment where if we do make a mistake or we're trying to master a skill, that we're in a place that people feel that they can do that and be a little bit vulnerable to really grow as a professional. And the Crest Center definitely provides that here at OCC in Auburn Hills.
What's some of the feedback you've received from the elected leaders over the years that have gone through this program?
Well, can we get Advil is one that usually comes at the end of the day.
It is so physically demanding. I think people forget that.
Sure it is. And I want to be very clear. There's 2 things for the listeners and the viewers to understand. This is not a sales pitch. We are not trying to sell them anything. It is our intent is to inform them. And we're not trying to make it unrealistic. So the entry that they do, in fact, this year they added a forced entry through the door to get into the fire building. So there's just a little bit of a lumber that we put in there, and then they'll use some tools and they'll break that. It's probably a little bit easier than what a real door would be. But again, we're just trying to give them the idea. And I think they really appreciate that, because no one wants to be set up to fail. We're setting these individuals up to succeed and grow their knowledge about what emergency services provide within their communities. And I don't know that every mayor or every township trustee has ever forced a door. I don't know that they've ever tried to advance a charged hose line and feel how heavy that is. And when it's rubbing against the different corners as it snakes through the house, how challenging that is, and why you need another firefighter at the corners, we say, and advancing that hose line. So they really get an appreciation for what we do. And many of them are just grateful. They express sincere gratitude for the opportunity to look at what their firefighters, the men and women within their communities, their paramedics, are doing every single day. And it's a great opportunity, too, for our locals, our union locals, to have real positive engagement, and the fire chiefs to have a positive engagement and a positive day with their elected officials.
Chief Flynn with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Is there a program like this for the general public that if they were interested in maybe going into firefighting, does Oakland County Community College offer anything for them to kind of experience before they take a class?
You know, Ronnie, that is a great question. And I have no doubt that there is a little something that they would be able to expose them to. As you can maybe see in some of the activity behind me, that there's a lot. It's very organized, and we are practicing wearing masks. I just took mine off right before this interview, and I have nobody around me. But we're practicing as much of the physical distancing as possible, but all of our handlers are wearing their masks. All of our participants are wearing masks. And that's really the challenge for anybody trying to experience something right now. It is so demanding on us all for these different behavioral things we have to do to come together. So right now, I think there's probably very little for the general public to come in and participate with. But I would really encourage folks too, like if there are residents in West Bloomfield that wanted to experience some of that, to really call into my office and we'll discuss really what their objectives are. And I think really any local fire chief wants the citizens to understand it. And that's what Fire Safety Month, October, is typically all about with our fire open houses. And unfortunately in West Bloomfield, being responsible and concerned about the wellness of our community, it's very difficult when people are excited to come to the fire station to maintain all that physical distancing. So unfortunately, one of those opportunities to see what we do right in the community, the fire open house, has been canceled for 2020.
So many of these traditions and educational experiences are being delayed right now because of COVID. I know we spoke with the police chief, and ride-alongs are delayed right now as well for members of the community. Hey, Chief, you said you were an OCC grad. How important is it to have these types of programs in our backyard and available to the people who are interested in this field?
Well, we really want the education to get the professionals in the door. I think we've talked on this broadcast about the challenges of getting new hires. There's been lots of national debate within public safety, police and fire, EMS, about diversity. And in order to create that level of diversity, we need access to the education. OCC provides that at a very reasonable cost. We're so fortunate to have the community college with a network of campuses that spans across our county. Now, the training is centralized here for that specific discipline of public safety, but those supportive classes that you do to finish your degree, you can pick that up at the Highland Lakes campus or the Royal Oak campus. But there's definitely a connection. And right now, so many of those classes are being offered virtually that it's a great opportunity to take advantage of it. And I just heard about a new program this morning about how frontline workers can apply for some tuition discounts, even reimbursement at OCC for a limited time through the end of the year. They can apply, and then they'll have a series of years to use that tuition as part of a frontline worker give back program. So I'd encourage listeners and viewers to check that out at OCC's website.
West Bloomfield Fire Chief Greg Flynn with us on the Oakland County Megacast. You mentioned that October is Fire Safety Month without having the annual fire department open house. What are some other efforts that your department is taking to help keep the community informed about fire safety in their homes, at their businesses, as we have transitioned out of summer and into a new season? That's usually a time of transition where a lot of these issues do come to light. What's your department doing now to adjust to continue that education during this month and beyond, with COVID still a factor?
Right, we're definitely going to take advantage of things like the Megacast, our social media platforms, and try to engage folks that way. There's a lot of success with that. I mean, I look at the people I've been engaging with now on Zoom meetings, people that have always said they traditionally struggle with technology, that are just a couple clicks away and you're talking face to face, and they're framing their shots well. We've all gotten over our virtual background excitement and all of those things. And we just look at this maturing that we're having in this virtual world. And we hope to see, we're exploring some opportunities for some other virtual engagement with the Chamber of Commerce and just see what else we can do to reach out and make that connection with the public. Because even in the presence of the pandemic here with the novel coronavirus, fire safety is still important, maybe even more so, Ronnie and Tyler, with the amount of time people are spending home. And remember, it's getting colder and they're going to be even inside more often. So we don't want computers plugged in and left on beds and charging, and the fans can't cool computers down, and how many things we're plugging in because we're all fighting to recharge batteries for using the plug space, and just keeping a mindset of safety, candles burning, all that kind of stuff that still remains a priority for us to reduce risk within the greater West Bloomfield area. You know, I'm joined behind me. You can see in the background, we got fire chiefs from all the Oakway departments up here behind me. And they share that same message to all their communities, from Southfield to Rochester Hills to Ferndale and everything in between, to make sure that our communities are safe.
I know typically it's a big reminder this time of year when we fall back to, check your smoke detectors. So many fire departments typically do have programs where they give out smoke detectors to families. Is West Bloomfield doing that this year or not?
So we have participated in programs like that. I would encourage people to friend us on Facebook and watch for those postings to come up as those resources are available. But I also want to make sure that people keep in mind that we have resources right in the township, whether it's the local Ace Hardware or a trip down to a Home Depot or to Lowe's, where you can find your CO detector batteries for those. And remember that many of those individual smoke alarms, replacing the battery, well, many of our newer homes have wired interconnected smoke alarms, and those usually have a lifespan of about 10 years before those need to be switched out. So definitely something to do a little Google search on, find out where your home is as far as the chronology, the timeline for how long those units have been in service. And if we can ever be of assistance at the FD, we'd encourage you to reach out on the business line for that assistance.
Chief Greg Flynn with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast. Just a couple more minutes with you here. You mentioned a really great thing that I didn't think about, because again, when you don't have kids, these are little things we don't think about, but everyone on their computers and leaving them on surfaces such as your bed, and they can't cool down. I never thought about that. Are you seeing an increase of fires because of electronic devices?
Well, Ronnie, and I have 3, so if you need to borrow one for a little bit, I'd be happy to share. But, the thing that I'll find with our boys, Danielle and I, it's just they leave stuff, right? They get distracted, or they start doing something else, or they get up to get something and they leave it on the couch. And these are areas that can kind of muffle and compress around the fan that would draw to cool the batteries and things like that. And I don't know that I can say that we've had an increase in fires as a result, but we know that there are people that will smell an odor. We go in the house and we see that it's just started to smolder or create a near fire, if you will. And that's really, we're trying to prevent fires from happening. So just thinking of those types of things, and what's charging, and once something's done charging, just to unplug it and not leave everything, every socket in your house with something plugged into it. Those are just good safety things to always keep in mind. And remember, we never plug power strips into power strips too. They're not like Christmas lights. We don't keep plugging those in sequence.
That's a good reminder. I might have one of those in my house right now. So I'll be sure to go home and change that this afternoon, because sometimes you're running so many devices, but you need that extra length. So you do one to the other to the other. So good advice there, Chief. Anything else you want to get out to the people before we let you go?
Well, and I know we're probably short on time, but if there's anything COVID, I know there's a lot going on out there with, the president going in the hospital and just discussions out there. Again, if we can sort through all of the chatter and everything that's going on in mainstream media and bring it back to what we've been saying from day one on the MegaCast, wash your hands, remember thoroughly, 20 seconds, happy birthday 2 times through, create physical distance between people, especially when you can't wear a mask. And by all means, masks work, period. Masks work, period. So we want to wear those when we can't honor physical distancing, or we're not feeling well and we need to be out to do grocery shopping or something. We want to make sure that we're able to do that.
And that is a good note to leave on there, Chief. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.